Hey everyone, it's Pastor Bob. We're doing something a little bit different, and what we're trying to do here is take every week a few minutes and just talk about something that maybe I don't get a chance to talk about in the Sunday service. As you know, we're beginning a brand new series called It's the End of the World as We Know It, as we spend some time, the next couple of months actually, going through the book of Revelation, verse by verse and chapter by chapter. But what I want to answer today is the question of, are we living in the last days? I mean, I think that that's really the question that's on people's minds as they hear about economic collapses, as they hear about war all over the world, as they hear about homes in foreclosure and all kinds of instability that's taking place with world leaders and world economies and all of that. Are we living in the last days? Now, here's the thing that's so interesting, is that that's the question that the disciples of Jesus have been asking, well, since the original disciples of Jesus. When Jesus said in Matthew 24, when they were showing him all of the, all of the buildings of the temple, and he said that not one stone will be left upon another, they stopped him and they asked him, they said, when will these things happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Three specific questions that then Jesus goes on to talk about in Matthew chapter 24 and 25. But the thing that's really most important in that chapter is when he starts talking about the fig tree. Now, the fig tree is and has been the national symbol of Israel for now 2,000 to 3,000 years. And so when Jesus gives this specific mention about the fig tree, their ears perked up because they knew that there was something serious that he had to say and that it had to do with Israel. Now, here's what's so important. What's so important is that prior to May 14th of 1948, there was no Israel. Israel was dispersed throughout the entire earth after the Roman 10th Legion came in and destroyed the temple, and after about 132 AD, they were not even allowed to speak. In fact, that was something that happened. One of the Roman emperors, after another rebellion that took place that the Jews had mounted trying to overthrow the Roman yoke, once that failed, he issued a law saying that there could not be two Jews speaking in the city of Jerusalem. Well, this caused the Jews to be scattered throughout the entire earth. And of course, we know what happened in the early part of the 1940s with Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich and the Holocaust. And this began a movement which had actually started about 100 years before, which was called the Zionist movement. And for whatever reason, all of these Jews throughout the entire earth were moving back to Israel. And after the situation of the Holocaust in World War II, the United Nations looked on and said, we need to give these people a homeland so that this never takes place again. And so the thing that was impossible, the question that the prophet asks in the Old Testament is, can a nation be born in a day? Well, that's exactly what took place in May 14th of 1948. And they saw Israel become a nation that day. Now, why is that so important for us? It's so important for us because none of these prophecies could have taken place, the things that we read about in Matthew 24 and 25, in the book of Revelation and other passages in the book of Daniel, they could not have taken place unless Israel was established as a nation. And so what we've had now for just over 50 years is Israel living, the Jewish people living back in the land, Israel as a nation, and the Jews still coming from all over the earth, coming back to live in the land given to them by God, to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And here's what Jesus had to say. This is what he says in Matthew 24. Jesus says, now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the doors. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away until all these things take place. Now, what does that tell us? That is the generation that sees the nation of Israel form, the nation of Israel blossoming and prospering. Our generation, the generation that has lived to see Israel become what it is, isn't going to pass away. So are we living in the last days? Absolutely. Are we living in the last of the last days? I believe absolutely, because what Jesus says is that when you see the fig tree, Israel, blossoming, it means that his coming is at the very door. And so that's a reason to rejoice. It's a reason to be excited. And stay tuned to whatever format you're hearing this or watching this, whether it's on iTunes or whether it's on our website or whatever the case. And join us as we begin February 8th, The End of the World as We Know It, a study through Revelation. God bless you.